Welcome back. Episode 3, I think it's 3, of Woodworking for Beginners. I'm filming this over the Christmas holidays, so have a good Christmas. Wish you and everybody the best for the new year. Let's kick the old year in the nuts and hopefully move forward with a new year that we can actually start living again. Anyway, episode 3. We've learnt about the various tools. We've spent a little bit of money buying some. We've learned how to read the tape measure. We've learned how to mark a measurement on a piece of wood, MDF, whatever it was. And in the last video we learnt the beginnings of how to use a hand saw, how to cut a piece of wood. So in this video we're going to make a little project that's going to help you as a fledgling woodworker, DIYer, doesn't matter, home improver. Something that's going to help you hold your wood steady whilst you cut it. So in this video we're going to measure, we're going to mark, we're going to cut, and also we're either going to nail or we're going to screw together. Dirty minds. Anyway, the project is different names for it. People call it different things. Bench hook, bench steady, cutting block, hold fast. There's all different names. Everybody around the world are going to say, oh, I call it this, I call it that. I don't care. Here in the UK, it's most commonly known as a bench hook. The reason being, I'll bring it to the bench and show you. Basic stuff. This can be made out of offcuts, scrap pieces of wood. I'm using MDF because that's what I got here that's scrap at the moment. You could use ply, you could use laminate, you could use kitchen worktop, you could use anything. Roughly, I'm not going to go into sizes or measurements with regards to what I've built because you use your offcuts, whatever you've got. This can be virtually any size. You're going to use 3 1, 2, 3, Nissan, Hannah Dul Rock, Ein, Dein, Trein, Indai Tree, French, 1, 2, 3. That's about all I know, sorry. Yeah, it's Christmas, you can tell. Anyway, just 3 pieces of offcuts. I'll bring it out to the bench, we'll have a look what we need, and then we'll have a look at putting it together and what its use is. Peace out. Merry Christmas, people. Okay, so what is our project used for? Well, basically, you can see by the shape, you have a board, a piece of offcut, batten, anything, piece of offcut, batten, anything, put on the opposite sides. And it's as simple as you drop it over the edge of whatever you're going to be cutting on, butt it up to the edge, and then that allows you to put the piece of work that you're going to cut against the opposite batten. Grab your saw, and then because you've cut this side smaller, you can actually use that as a guide for your saw. So you put that there, you put your saw against that edge on your line obviously that you've marked, and this you're going to push forward, and that will help you. I won't cut this piece because I want it, but that will help you work your way through. If I just cut this little bit of offcut scrap for you to see, rather than me try and hold this on the bench and it's wobbling and moving and obviously cutting into my work surface, I can put my bench hook in place, bring up my piece to be cut wherever my mark is to that edge, still using my fingers as a guide on the back, start my cut and then cut away. And also I'm using that to hold the saw square, because we're going to cut that end square in a minute. Basically, there you go. Cut the way through. Cut the way. And it doesn't matter if I cut into this board. Doesn't matter if I cut into the board, as long as I don't go all the way through, because that is always going to land in the same place. As you can see, that was a lot more steady by holding and pressing that forward. It didn't move, it didn't jump about, and it also helped me cut a nice clean square edge. So let's get into the making. Okay, so we got our bit of board, bit of ply, bit of worktop, bit of flooring, skirt, it doesn't matter, anything will do. As long as you've got a little bit of width, say minimum 100 mil, 10 centimeters, 4 inches, I don't know, don't care. You've got a piece to go as a backstop, and then you've got a front piece, but on one edge of the front piece you need to mark with your square and your pencil. Chunk. Let me see if I can grab a pencil. Make sure that on one end you mark a square line. I'm just doing this quickly for the camera, like that, and then cut that with your saw that you've already practiced with, nice and square on your line. I've already done that with that edge, so I've got perfectly square. Then the orientation is, if you want to mark them, if we call that number 1 and that number 1, all you want to make sure is you've got a fairly clean edge on one side. You can see that's got a bit of a lip on it, but that's fairly straight. So that edge we're going to face up the board, because that's what's going to hold against. So that will be 1. Number 2 is marked on the other end, the other side. So just get your board, turn it over, mark number 2, your square end facing in, number 2, like that. But remember, this square edge we want to keep in a little bit, just to allow our saw to make contact, so that when we go through, if it was on the edge with our saw, we'd end up cutting into the worktop as we drop down. So by pulling him back in a little bit, our saw, when we cut through, is going into our scrap piece. Now I'll get a few bits out and we'll have a look at fixing this together. 2 methods to fixing our project together. Number 1, good old-fashioned nails and our tappy stick, but make sure that the nails, when you're going through, obviously 2 layers, are not going to go all the way through. You don't want that nail to come and stick out the other side. You want him to go at least half the way into the second layer. Second option are wood screws, but again, making sure that when they're flush, they're only going to go halfway into the second piece. And for these, you can either use the good old screwdriver, dunk 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 by hand, or if you've got impact driver, screwdriver, cordless screwdriver, you've been treated for Christmas, you can use the easy method. So I'll do one of each just for you to see the difference. For our first side, Remember, number 1 to number 1, so that we've got a clean edge facing forward. Put him so that he's roughly flush with the edge. Doesn't matter if this is a bit shorter or as wide as your piece, it doesn't matter. But get this edge roughly flush. And then with your pencil, put a little mark and take them away. Now with your square on one edge, square that line across. If I can do this one-handed, square him across, so that you know when you put your first block on, like that, that'll be square to the edge. Then it's all just a matter of a case of taking your nail, spacing him in from the end a little bit, put him in the middle of your piece, and just give him a few taps to start, like that. And then that's all you're going to do is, as you're nailing, you're going to press down and you're going to hold the block on that line. I'll try and do it with the camera in place, but watch your pinkies. There. And as you can see, I'm still holding on my line. So I put the second nail in. Don't go whacking like your life depends on it. Just let the hammer do the work. I always hold the hammer like that. I always put my thumb on top, similar to the saw, because I can guide where the hammer's going. I've seen people holding the hammer up here. Why? You're not using any of the hammer's weight then. You should always hold the hammer down towards the end of the handle. Don't hold it up here, because again, you're not using the hammer. The weight is from the center point. You want to use it at, was it the fulcrum point, I think, something like that. And it's in the wrist. People go, yo! It's in the wrist. So, right, make sure he's on the line again. Tap him in, tap him out until you got him nice. Same again, hold him down, drive the nail in. Try and make sure that they're flush. If they're not, you can either use another nail to put on top, bunk, just to punch them so they're flush. So that's side one. Second side. Now this is where you've got to take note. Put your first side. So the first block you've just done is on the right hand side on the bottom. Put that down against what you're going to lock him into, like your worktop. And then your second block, put him so that he's again there or there about flush on top, but also leave a gap. Don't bring this right over to the end, because when you cut with your saw will just go through and cut your worktop. You want your saw to go through and drop onto your board. So again, put a little mark, and this time you want the nice flat edge facing down the board. So square him off. Like that. And it's the same again, but this time you can actually use the board like you're going to in practice. Is hook him over, put your piece back on and get him squared up. Now like I say, I'll use screws this time. You can either put them in by hand or with a driver. I'll do the first one with a driver. Now if you want to be technical, you can pre-drill these first, but as it's going to be a quick cheap cutting board, it's your choice. So get him lined up, drive him in. That's all I'm doing, is keeping pressure down. The minute the bit starts jumping out, the minute that bit starts to jump out, stop, reseat him, start again. I've seen so many people just mashing the end up because they don't stop and reseat the bit. Again, if you haven't got a cordless, then yes, it can be done by hand. It takes a lot longer. That's all I'm doing is I've got the screwdriver in the screw head. I'm holding the screw between my finger and thumb, and I downward pressure as I'm turning. Then I'm holding, then I'm turning, and I keep doing that, and you'll see the screw will drive itself in. Takes a while, takes some effort, but you will get there. Fight the burn, fight the burn. There. And again, make sure that these are just below the surface. Now, that is your first project. That's your cutting block. You know you've got a nice square edge. You've got a cut-in reveal for your saw to go down into. So let's give him a try. Put him down, lock him, get the piece that you want to cut. Where's my mark? Oh, my mark's by there. So I'm putting my mark in line. And again, remember when I said about the side that you're going to cut your waste? If that's my mark, I want my waste on this side. So my saw tooth is going to go from there over. So that's where my saw is going to be cutting. That's my waste. So, on, hold, and I'm pushing forward and down, starting with my finger. Let the saw do the work, all the way forward, all the way back. I'm not worried about cutting into the board a little bit. And I got a lovely, clean, square cut. I've got a little groove cut in there for next time. Now these boards will last you years. They're something that you can put up in your cupboard out of the way. Next time you want to cut a bit of wood, jump, job done. So that's your first project. I hope that helps. As I said, you can screw or nail, doesn't matter. Offcuts, any bit of scrap. So there you are, that's episode 3. Nice cutting board. Hope that helps. Catch you in the next one, people. Peace out.